Esperanza Mendoza had lived her entire life like a queen in her desert palace. Her French silk dresses cost more than what a cowboy earned in 5 years. Her jewels sparkled like fallen stars from heaven. Her table groaned under the weight of delicacies imported from Europe while the Apaches starved to death in the mountains. She was a woman who had never known hunger, true thirst, or genuine fear for her life. At 40 years old, her robust body was testament to a life of excess. Her pale skin always protected by parasols and thick walls. She had never walked more than 100 meters in a row. She had never slept without Egyptian cotton sheets. She had never drunk water that didn't come from her private well. The Apaches called her the woman who eats gold, because they believed only someone who literally fed on precious metal could be so fat while others starved around her. That's why, when Nalnish of the Chiricahua arrived with his proposal, everyone present believed they were hearing wrong. "I want the fat woman," he had said, his black eyes fixed on Esperanza like arrows aimed at a target. "An exchange. She comes with me for a full moon. If she survives, if she learns, we talk about peace. If not..." The silence that followed was so dense it could be cut with a knife. The ranch hands looked at each other, some laughing nervously. An Apache asking for the richest woman in the territory to go live like a savage? A woman who couldn't even climb stairs without panting, surviving in the brutal desert? Miguel Herrera, the foreman, was the first to speak. "This is a joke, right? The señora wouldn't last a day out there." But something in Esperanza's eyes had changed when Nalnish spoke those words. Something no one had seen before. It was as if a flame had ignited in the depths of her soul. A flame fed by years of secret guilt she had kept buried like stolen gold. Because Esperanza knew something no one else knew. She knew where her late husband's fortune really came from. She knew why Rodrigo woke up screaming at night, sweating and muttering names in Apache. She knew about the secret basement filled with blood-stained gold and human trophies she had preferred to ignore for years. "I accept," she had said, and those 2 words fell into the courtyard like stones in a deep well. Everyone froze. The cowboys, the foreman, even Nalnish seemed surprised for a moment. "Señora," Miguel murmured, "you can't be serious." "I accept," Esperanza repeated, her voice stronger this time. "I'll go with you, Apache." What no one understood at that moment was that Esperanza wasn't being brave. She was being cowardly in the deepest possible way. She preferred to face death in the desert rather than continue living with the weight of the truth she had discovered about her life of luxury. What no one knew was that in 3 days, when the moment of exchange came, a chain of events would be unleashed that would not only change the life of a rich fat woman, but would forever transform the history of the entire Arizona territory. What no one could imagine was that the Apache had no intention of killing her quickly. His plan was much crueler, much more devastating, and much more merciful than anyone could have conceived. Because what Nalnish did to Esperanza Mendoza during that moon in the desert wasn't physical torture. It was something infinitely worse and infinitely more powerful. He showed her the truth, the whole truth, without filters, without excuses, without the comfortable lies that had built her world of cotton and silk. And when the truth finished doing its work, when it had burned to ashes everything Esperanza believed herself to be, what emerged from those ashes was something that left everyone who witnessed it completely paralyzed. Something that changed not just one woman, but 2 entire cultures. Something that proved that even in the heart most hardened by greed and ignorance, the most extraordinary redemption can still be born. But to understand how a rich, obese woman ended up becoming the bridge between 2 warring worlds, first you must know the exact moment when her old life died forever. The rifle points straight at Esperanza Mendoza's heart. Her hands tremble, not from fear, but from pure rage. The Arizona sun beats down on her sweaty face as she watches the 5 men who have come to claim what was never theirs. "Señora Mendoza," says the leader, his Spanish tinged with an accent that makes every word sound like a threat. "I am Nalnish of the Chiricahua. I come for what belongs to me." Esperanza spits in the dry earth. Her black silk dress clings to her robust body, soaked in sweat and desperation. Nothing on this land belongs to you, savage. Nalnish smiles. But there's no humor in his expression. The white man's papers don't change what the land knows. But I come to make an exchange. What kind of exchange? There is a tradition among my people. When there is conflict between tribes, sometimes it is resolved with an exchange of people. You come to live with us for a full moon. If after that time you still believe these lands belong only to you, we will leave forever. Esperanza's men murmur among themselves, some laughing with disbelief. She herself can't help a contemptuous smile. Do you expect me, a civilized woman, to go live like a savage in the desert? I expect you to learn what this land really means. But what happened next changed everything forever. 3 days earlier, the letter arrived with dawn, sealed with red wax and stains that looked like dried blood. Esperanza opened it with trembling fingers, immediately recognizing her late husband's handwriting. If you are reading this, I am already dead. What I did has no forgiveness. In the basement, behind the false wall, you will find the truth. Forgive me, my love. Forgive me for condemning you. Her bare feet strike the cold stones of the basement. The torch trembles in her hand as she searches for the false wall. When she finds it, her nails break against the stones until it gives way. The smell hits her first. Sweet, putrid, familiar. Inside are wooden boxes filled with gold. Apache gold, sacred gold, stolen from ancestral graves. And something else that makes her stomach turn. Hair, braids cut from women and children, trophies from a massacre that was never reported. My God, Esperanza whispers, falling to her knees. What did you do, Rodrigo? A note stuck to one of the boxes tells her everything she needs to know. Sleeping Wolf Camp, March 20. Esperanza remembers that date. Rodrigo had returned home with a strange smile and pockets full of gold. He told her he had found a new vein. She never asked where it really came from. Now the Apaches have come for her, and they deserve their revenge. But what happened next changed everything forever. The sun turns the desert into a furnace. Esperanza walks behind Nalnish, her European leather boots completely inadequate for the burning sand. Her feet bleed inside them, each step a silent agony. Water, she gasps after 4 hours. Her tongue sticks to her palate. Sweat no longer flows from her pores. Nalnish stops. He turns toward her with eyes that show no mercy. Did you ask for water when my people died of thirst in the desert? When your husband poisoned our sacred wells? Ignorance is not innocence. Esperanza collapses. Her knees hit the rocky ground, sending waves of pain through her body. Her dress tears, exposing white skin that is already beginning to redden under the relentless sun. I can't continue. Nalnish crouches in front of her. His face is inches from hers, and she can smell his wild breath, see the scars that mark his skin like a map of battles. Then you die here, like my 6-year-old daughter died when she couldn't find clean water. The words pierce Esperanza like spears. A little girl. Rodrigo had killed a little girl. What was her name? She whispers. For the first time, something changes in Nalnish's eyes. A pain so deep it makes Esperanza's physical agony seem trivial. Itzel. Her name was Itzel. Esperanza forces herself to stand. Her legs tremble, but she finds strength somewhere deep within herself. A strength born of guilt and the desperate need to mend the impossible to mend. I will walk, she says, for Itzel. I will walk until I die if necessary. Nalnish studies her for a long moment. Then he nods once. But what happened next changed everything forever. When they reach the camp, Esperanza immediately understands why the Apaches survive where others die. There are no permanent tents, only structures that move with the wind, that adapt to the terrain like desert plants. But what paralyzes her isn't the camp's efficiency, it's the bones. Hanging from wooden posts, bleached by the sun, are human bones. Ribs, femurs, skulls, some small, some very small. Your husband's bones are there, says Nailnish, pointing to a skull hanging alone, separated from the others. My family's bones are there. Esperanza counts quickly. Too many small bones. Too many to be just one family. How many? Her voice is barely a whisper. How many what? How many died at Sleeping Wolf? Nailnish looks at her for a long time. When he finally speaks, his voice carries the weight of mountains. 63. Men, women, children, elders. Everyone except me. I was hunting when your husband's men came. The world spins around Esperanza. 63 people. A complete massacre. And she had lived in wealth built on their bones. That's why you brought me here, she whispers. Not to kill me, so I could see what I really am. You are the widow of a demon, says Nailnish. But I still don't know if you are a demon yourself. An old woman approaches. Her face is tattooed with blue lines that form complex patterns. Her eyes are white with cataracts, but they seem to see directly into Esperanza's soul. This is Ayana, says Nailnish. She was Sleeping Wolf's healer. She escaped because she was gathering herbs in the mountains. Ayana speaks in Apache, her words like the croaking of ravens. Nailnish translates, but his expression darkens. She says you can stay, but you must undergo the blood ritual. What is that? A test, to see if your spirit is stained by my people's blood, or if it can be purified. Esperanza looks at the bones hanging in the wind. Guilt crushes her like a rock. And if I fail the test? Nailnish smiles, but there's no humor in his expression. Then your bones will join your husband's forever. But what happened next changed everything forever. The bonfire burns in the center of the camp when night falls. Esperanza is kneeling in the circle of flames, surrounded by dancing shadows that look like demons on the rock walls. Ayana offers her a gourd filled with dark liquid. It smells of bitter herbs and something else, something that makes her stomach churn. Drink, orders Nailnish, and see the truth. Esperanza takes the gourd with trembling hands. The liquid tastes like earth and iron, like blood and rotting roots. She forces it down her throat as the flames dance around her. At first, nothing happens. Then the world begins to change. The bones hanging from the posts come to life. They become flesh. They become people. A little girl with black braids runs between the tents, laughing. An old man carves wood by the fire. A young woman nurses her baby. See, whispers Ayana's voice, though her lips don't move. See what was. Esperanza sees. She sees the Sleeping Wolf camp, as it was before the massacre. She sees families living in peace, children playing, love flourishing in the middle of the desert. Then she sees the men arrive. She sees Rodrigo leading the attack. She sees how they systematically kill every living being, how they desecrate the sacred graves, how they take the gold that had been buried with the ancestors. She sees the 6-year-old girl, Itzel, hidden in a ceramic pot. She sees how they find her. She sees how she dies. The scream that comes from Esperanza's throat is not human. It's the howl of a wounded animal, the lament of a mother losing her child, the cry of all humanity facing its own evil. Stop, she screams. But the visions continue. She sees more. She sees Rodrigo returning home with blood-stained gold. She sees her own face, smiling as she counts the coins. She sees how she buys new dresses, jewelry, luxuries paid for with innocent blood. Accomplice, whispers Ayana, and this time Esperanza knows the word is true. When the visions finally end, Esperanza is convulsing on the ground. Foamy saliva comes from her mouth. Her body writhes as if she has poison in her veins. The ritual speaks the truth, declares Nailnish. Her spirit is poisoned, but it's not rotten. It can be saved. How? Esperanza gasps between spasms. You must die, says Ayana. The woman you were must die completely. Only then can you be reborn clean. Die? Not your body, your soul. Everything you were, everything you believed yourself to be, must burn to ashes. Esperanza looks at the flames dancing around her. She understands. She must destroy every vestige of the woman who had been the happy wife of a murderer. She must kill the Esperanza who had enjoyed riches built on bones. "Do it," she whispers. "Kill me." But what happened next changed everything forever. For 3 days, Esperanza doesn't eat, doesn't drink, doesn't speak. She remains sitting in lotus position next to the bones of her husband's victims, letting the desert sun burn her skin until it peels in strips. The hallucinations begin on the 2nd day. She sees Rodrigo standing in front of her, smiling with blood-stained teeth. "Why do you betray me?" he asks. "I gave you everything. Wealth, power, a comfortable life. You gave me blood," Esperanza responds, her voice hoarse from thirst. "You fed me death." "You were happy," insists Rodrigo's vision. "Before you knew the truth, you were happy." It's true, and that's what hurts most. She had been genuinely happy, living off wealth stolen from the dead. What kind of monster was she? On the 3rd day, a new vision comes. Itzel, the 6-year-old girl, sits next to her. Her large, dark eyes show no accusation, only curiosity. "Why are you crying, fat lady?" asks the girl. "Because your death was my fault." "Did you kill me?" "Not directly, but I lived off your death. I benefited from your suffering." Itzel considers this with the seriousness only children have. "Will you do something to fix it?" "I don't know how." Adults always say that when they don't want to try hard. The words hit Esperanza like slaps. A dead girl is lecturing her about responsibility, and she's right. "What should I do?" "Live," says Itzel, "but live differently. Live to honor the dead instead of stealing from them." When the vision fades, Esperanza feels something break inside her chest. It's not physical pain, it's something deeper. Her old identity crumbles like wet adobe. The woman who had been Senora Mendoza is dying. But what happened next changed everything forever. Ananish finds her at dawn on the 4th day, unconscious next to the bones. Her skin is burned almost black. Her lips are cracked and bleeding. But when he touches her wrist, her pulse is strong. "Ayana," he calls. "Come quickly." The old healer examines Esperanza with expert hands. She presses points on her neck, smells her breath, observes the color of her nails. "She has crossed," she says finally. "The old woman has died. This one is new." When Esperanza wakes up, the world seems different. Colors are brighter, sounds clearer. She can smell things she had never noticed before. The scent of sage in the wind, moisture hidden in rocks, the distinctive smell of each person in the camp. "How do you feel?" asks Nalnish. Esperanza considers the question. "Empty," she says finally, "like I vomited my soul and now have space for something new." "Good. Now you learn to be Apache." The following days are a brutal lesson in survival. Esperanza learns to find water by following bird flight. She learns to identify edible plants by their smell. She learns to walk without making noise, to read tracks on the ground like words on a page. Each lesson is paid for with pain. Her hands fill with blisters from digging roots. Her feet are cut on rocks. Her back aches constantly from carrying water in clay pots. But there's something else, something she didn't expect. Peace. For the first time in years, she doesn't wake up thinking about money, status, appearances she must maintain. She wakes up thinking about the water she must find, the food she must prepare, the hands that need healing. "You're smiling," observes Nailnish, one afternoon while she practices braiding yucca fibers. Esperanza touches her lips, surprised. "I suppose I am. Why?" "I don't know. For the first time in my life, I know exactly what I'm for." "And what are you for?" "To help, to learn, to try to balance the scales." Nanail nods slowly. "Perhaps there is hope for you after all." But what happened next changed everything forever. On the 7th day, Esperanza wakes to the sound of horse hooves. She sits up from her mat, instantly alert. The Apaches have trained her senses until they've become survival instruments. Soldiers, shouts a lookout from the rocks. The camp explodes into activity. In seconds, the few possessions are packed, fires extinguished, tracks erased. The Apaches move like water, flowing toward hiding places among rocks that seemed invisible moments before. Come. Nalnish grabs Esperanza's arm, pulling her toward a crack in the rock wall. But Esperanza sees something that makes her blood freeze. Among the approaching soldiers, she recognizes a familiar figure, tall, with a black mustache, riding a chestnut horse. Miguel, she whispers. Miguel Herrera, the foreman of her ranch, the man she had trusted to handle affairs while she was kidnapped, the man who had promised to pay any ransom to bring her back. Do you know him? Asks Nalnish, noticing her expression. He's my foreman. He must have come to rescue me. But as she watches, she sees something that makes her stomach churn. Miguel isn't following tracks. He isn't searching. He's directing the soldiers straight toward Apache hiding places with the precision of someone who knows exactly where to look. He betrayed us, whispers Esperanza. Miguel betrayed us. How? He's leading them directly to us. Nalnish curses in Apache. How can he know where we are? The truth hits Esperanza like lightning. Because I told him. Before leaving with you, I told him I would be in the Dragoon Mountains. I thought it would be useful information for a rescue. Stupid white woman. I didn't know. Your ignorance kills. Again. The soldiers are close now. Esperanza can hear their voices, can smell the sweat of their horses. In minutes they'll find the camp. I have to go out, says Esperanza suddenly. What? If they see me with you, they'll kill us all. But if I go out alone, if I pretend I escaped, they'll kill you for sympathizing with Apaches. Maybe, but it's better than everyone dying. Nalnish grabs her arm. His eyes are filled with something that could be respect. Would you do that? Risk your life for us? Yes, says Esperanza, and she's surprised to realize it's true. Yes, I would. Then maybe you really have changed. Esperanza crawls out of the crack toward open ground. Her heart beats so loud, she's sure the soldiers can hear it. But what happened next changed everything forever. Here she is. Miguel's shouts cut through the desert air like knives. Esperanza forces herself to run toward him, feigning relief and terror. Her performance must be perfect, or everyone will die. Miguel, thank God. She throws herself into his arms, but she can feel the tension in his body. Something is wrong, very wrong. Señora Esperanza, says Miguel, but there's no relief in his voice, only satisfaction. Colonel Thompson dismounts from his horse. He's a tall, thin man with blue eyes cold as ice. Señora Mendoza, are you hurt? I'm fine, Esperanza pants. The Apaches held me prisoner, but I managed to escape this morning. Escape? Thompson's eyes narrow. From where exactly? Esperanza points vaguely west, in the opposite direction from the real camp, from a cave. I think they went south when they realized I had disappeared. But Thompson isn't looking where she points. He's looking at her hands. Señora Mendoza, he says slowly, those blisters on your hands. How did you get them? Esperanza's blood freezes. The blisters are from digging roots, from doing Apache work. There's no way to explain them as a result of being a prisoner. I tried to dig my way out of the cave. And that braid in your hair, continues Thompson, very elaborate for someone who has been captive. Esperanza touches her hair instinctively. Ayana had taught her to braid it Apache style. She had forgotten to change it. Miguel told me something very interesting, says Thompson, approaching. He told me about the gold they found in your house's basement. Apache gold. And the trophies. The world stops. Miguel knew about the gold. Miguel had been in her house, had found Rodrigo's secret hiding place. I don't know what you're talking about. He also told me about the letters he found. Letters from your husband detailing his plans to attack Apache camps. Letters that specifically mention Sleeping Wolf. Esperanza looks at Miguel with horror and understanding. You knew all this time, you knew what Rodrigo had done. Miguel smiles, but it's a shark smile. Of course I knew. I was there. The words hit Esperanza like physical bullets. Sleeping Wolf was my idea, says Miguel with pride. Your husband was too soft. I suggested we simply take what we needed. You helped massacre those families. Business is business, Senora. And now, with you dead, and me as the only heir named in your will. My will? Miguel pulls a document from his jacket. Signed by you 3 months ago. Of course the signatures were practiced. The betrayal is complete. Miguel has planned this from the beginning. He had let her go with the Apaches hoping she would die. When that didn't happen, he came to kill her himself. Colonel Thompson, says Miguel. As you can see, Senora Mendoza has clearly been compromised by her time with the savages. She's probably given them information about our defenses. Thompson nods. She's a traitor. The punishment for treason is clear. Esperanza sees her death in the colonel's eyes. But what hurts most isn't the fear, but the realization that Miguel will also kill all the Apaches. He'll track them using the information she had innocently given him. Wait, she says, desperate. There's something else you need to know. What? Asks Thompson. The gold from Sleeping Wolf. There's more, much more, hidden in the mountains. It's a lie, but she sees interest in Miguel's eyes. Greed is his weakness. Where? Asks Miguel. The Apaches showed it to me, but I need to be alive to find it. It's hidden with Apache traps. Without me, you'll never find it. She's lying, says Thompson. No, says Miguel quickly. No, Senora Esperanza would never lie about gold. She's too greedy for that. The irony is bitter. Her old greed keeps her alive for a few more minutes. Very well, says Thompson. Take us to the gold, then we hang you. As they walk toward the mountains, Esperanza prays to gods she had never believed in before. She prays that Nalnish and the others have escaped. She prays that her sacrifice won't be in vain. But what happened next changed everything forever. 3 hours later, when it's clear there's no gold hidden anywhere, Thompson orders them to prepare the gallows. Esperanza is kneeling on the desert ground, hands tied behind her back, watching 2 soldiers throw a rope over the branch of a solitary palo verde. Last words, says Thompson. Esperanza looks toward the mountains where she hopes Nalnish is hiding. Tell Nalnish that Itzel is avenged. Tell him the fat woman finally learned to live correctly. What is she talking about? Asks Miguel. About something you'll never understand. Esperanza responds. About honor. Thompson raises his hand to give the signal, but the sound of hooves interrupts them. A rider approaches at full gallop, raising a cloud of dust. Colonel Thompson, shouts the rider as he dismounts. Urgent message from the general. Thompson takes the sealed paper and reads it quickly. His expression changes from irritation to shock to something like fear. What's wrong? Asks Miguel. Thompson folds the paper with trembling hands. New order from Washington. All conflicts with Apaches must cease immediately. Congress is investigating unauthorized massacres of civilians. What does that mean? It means someone in Washington has been asking questions about Sleeping Wolf and about other camps that were attacked without authorization. Miguel pales. How can they know? I don't know, but the order is clear. Any military personnel involved in unauthorized attacks will face court-martial. Thompson looks at Esperanza with new understanding. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you? No, says Esperanza honestly. But I hoped that eventually the truth would come to light. What truth? Asks Miguel, but there's panic in his voice. The truth about Sleeping Wolf, about the other massacres, about men like you who killed entire families for gold. She's lying, screams Miguel. She can't prove anything. Can't I? Esperanza smiles for the first time in days. Miguel, do you remember the letters you found in my house? The ones detailing my husband's plans? What about them? They weren't my husband's. They were yours. I recognized them when you mentioned them. Your distinctive handwriting, your characteristic spelling mistakes. Miguel's face goes white as bone. That's impossible. Rodrigo couldn't write very well. Miguel, you wrote all his business letters, including the ones planning the massacres. Thompson looks at Miguel with growing understanding. Is this true? I was just following orders. Liar. Esperanza manages to stand despite the ropes. You planned everything. You convinced Rodrigo to attack civilian camps. And now you want to kill me to cover your crimes. Shut up. Miguel draws his pistol, pointing it at Esperanza. Shut up, or I'll kill you right here. Lower your weapon, orders Thompson. Now. No, I won't let this bitch ruin everything. The shot breaks the desert silence like thunder. But the bullet doesn't come from Miguel's pistol. Nalnish stands on a rock 50 meters away, his rifle still smoking. Miguel falls to the ground, a red stain spreading across his white shirt. Apaches, shouts one of the soldiers, but Thompson raises a hand. Hold fire, he orders. Under the new regulations, we cannot shoot unless they shoot first. Nalnish descends from the rock with the fluid grace of a puma. His rifle remains ready, but doesn't point at anyone specifically. Other warriors emerge from hiding places that seemed like empty rocks seconds before. Is the Iron Woman alive? Asks Nalnish in Spanish, his eyes fixed on Thompson. Yes, the colonel responds cautiously. Why? Because she saved us. When she could have betrayed us, she chose to protect us. Thompson looks at Esperanza with new understanding. Is this true? Did you protect them? Yes, whispers Esperanza. Her throat is dry as paper. I knew Miguel had betrayed them. I knew you were coming to massacre them. I couldn't allow another sleeping wolf. Miguel, bleeding but still alive, manages to speak. Colonel, you must arrest her. She's a traitor. No, says Thompson firmly. Under the new regulations, protecting innocent civilians is not treason. It's duty. He crouches next to Esperanza and cuts her bonds with a knife. Señora Mendoza, I apologize. It seems I have been operating under incorrect information. Esperanza rubs her wrists, feeling blood flow back to her hands. What will happen to Miguel? He will be taken back to Fort Bowie for medical treatment. Then he will face a court-martial for war crimes. Miguel tries to protest, but blood loss is weakening him. His eyes close as the soldiers lift him. And us? Asks Nalnish. Thompson consults the paper in his hands. The new orders establish that all Apache groups that haven't attacked military installations in the last 6 months will receive safe passage to designated reservations. We won't go to reservations, says Nalnish firmly. Then you stay here. But there can be no more raids, no more attacks on settlers. There have been no raids since Sleeping Wolf, responds Nalnish. Only vengeance against the man who killed my people. Thompson nods slowly. Justice, not vengeance. I understand the difference. As the soldiers prepare to leave, taking the wounded Miguel, Thompson approaches Esperanza one last time. Señora Mendoza, what will you do now? Esperanza looks toward Nalnish, then toward the mountains that have been her home during these transformative weeks. I don't know, she admits. The woman I was no longer exists. And the woman I've become, I'm not sure where she belongs. You belong where you choose to belong, says Nalnish. The desert doesn't ask about the past of those who call it home. Would you accept me? After everything my husband, everything Miguel did to your people? Nalnish considers the question for a long moment. Itzel was my niece, he says finally, my sister's daughter. Her death almost drove me mad with grief. Esperanza feels tears burn her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you didn't kill her. And you've risked your life to protect other children, to protect what remains of my people. It's not enough. It will never be enough to compensate. No, interrupts Nalnish. You can't compensate the dead, but you can honor them by living so their memory has meaning. Ayana approaches, walking slowly with the help of a carved staff. She speaks in Apache. her words like the whisper of wind in rocks. "What does she say?" asks Esperanza. "She says the dead have spoken to her in dreams. They say your transformation is real, that the rotten spirit has been burned and replaced by something clean." "And what do you believe?" Nalanshi studies her face for a long time. "I believe the woman I met a month ago would have fled with the soldiers without looking back. This woman chose to risk her life for strangers. That's difference enough for me." But what happened next changed everything forever. 6 months later, the trading post that Esperanza established on the border between Apache territory and settler lands had become something unique in all of Arizona territory. Apaches and Mexicans traded side by side. Nalanish's warriors brought skins and medicinal herbs. Mexican farmers offered metal tools and grains. And Esperanza, now thin and tanned by the desert sun, served as intermediary and translator. But it wasn't just commerce. It was something deeper. "Maria is sick again," says Elena Vasquez, a young Mexican mother, approaching the counter where Esperanza organizes inventory. "The same cough?" "Yes, but worse. She can't keep food down." Esperanza nods and walks to the back of the post, where Ayana prepares traditional medicines. The old healer had chosen to stay here instead of following the nomadic band, saying the spirits had shown her new purpose. Ayana, the Vasquez girl, needs medicine for deep cough and weak stomach. The old woman moves her expert hands among jars of dried herbs, selecting willow bark, wild ginger root, and leaves from a plant that has no name in Spanish. 3 times a day, she says in Apache, and Esperanza translates. Tea with honey, if available. Without honey, if not. Alina takes the medicine with grateful hands. "How much do I owe?" "Nothing," says Esperanza. "Sick children don't pay." It's a rule she established from the first day. Children never pay, neither do elders. Only healthy adults contribute with money or barter. When Aylin leaves, Nayonch emerges from the shadows where he had been observing silently. The Vasquez family still doesn't completely trust. He observes, "I know they still see Ayana as an Apache witch, but they need her medicine. And gradually, they're learning that she wants to help, not harm." "And you? Do the settlers see you as a traitor?" Esperanza considers the question. "Some do, but others are beginning to understand that cooperation is more profitable than conflict. It's true, the farms that trade with the Apaches prosper. Nalanish's warriors protect their fields from bandits and wild animals. In exchange, the farmers share weather information and provide shelter during storms. There have been changes at Fort Bowie," says Nalnish. "The new commander wants to speak with you." "About what?" "About expanding this." He makes a gesture encompassing the entire trading post to other territories. "The idea is exciting and terrifying. Could this model of coexistence really spread? Or was it just a temporary miracle destined to collapse?" "What do you think?" asks Esperanza. "I think my niece would be proud," says Nailnish simply. That night, while Esperanza reviews the account books by oil lamp light, she reflects on the path that had brought her here. The obese, greedy woman who had been delivered to the Apaches no longer existed. In her place was someone thinner, stronger, wiser. But most importantly, there was someone who had learned that true wealth wasn't measured in gold, but in lives touched, conflicts healed, bridges built where before there had been only walls. A soft knock on the door interrupts her. She opens to find an Apache boy, no older than 10, with tears on his cheeks. "Señora Esperanza," he says in broken Spanish, "my grandmother says come quickly. My mother is dying." Without hesitation, Esperanza takes her medical bag and follows the boy toward the Apache camp. The desert night is cold, and stars shine like diamonds in the black sky. When they reach the tent, Esperanza can hear the weak moans of a woman in complicated labor. Ayana is inside, her hands stained with blood, her expression grave. "The baby is wrongly positioned," she says in Apache, and Esperanza translates for the terrified husband, "and the mother has lost much blood." For the next 6 hours, Esperanza helps Ayana in a desperate battle for 2 lives. They use both Apache and Mexican medical techniques, combining ancestral knowledge with modern remedies. When the baby is finally born, blue and silent, Esperanza thinks they have lost. But Ayana doesn't give up. She places the baby face down and gently hits its back until a weak cry fills the tent. "Lives," whispers the new mother, exhausted but smiling. "Lives," confirms Esperanza, cleaning the baby with trembling hands. As she walks back to the trading post at dawn, Esperanza completely understands her transformation. She's no longer the widow of a murderer living off stolen wealth. She's a healer, a bridge builder, a protector of life. But what happened next changed everything forever. 20 years later, a journalist from the Eastern Herald arrived in Arizona to write about the Desert Miracle, the network of cooperative trading posts that had spread throughout the territory, connecting Apache, Mexican, and Anglo-American communities in a web of commerce and cultural exchange. He found Esperanza, now a 60-year-old woman with gray hair braided Apache style and hands weathered by decades of work, teaching a group of mixed children about medicinal plants. "Señora Mendoza," said the journalist, "people say you single-handedly changed the history of this territory. How did you do it?" Esperanza smiled, looking toward the mountains where she had found her true self so many years ago. "I didn't change anything," she said. "I just let myself be changed." "What changed you?" "Truth. Really seeing the consequences of my actions. Understanding that every choice we make touches lives we may never see." "Is there any advice you would give to others facing similar conflicts?" Esperanza considered the question, seeing in her mind Itzel's face, the girl whose death had been the catalyst for her transformation. That guilt without action is just self-pity. But guilt that leads to real change, to genuine sacrifice for others, can become redemption. And those who say what you did was impossible, that Apache and Anglo can never live in peace, I would tell them to come here, to see the children playing together, learning from each other, to see the families that have survived because they chose cooperation over conflict. The journalist wrote furiously, trying to capture her words. "One last question, señora. Do you ever regret the life you left behind? The wealth? The comfort?" Esperanza looked toward where Nalnish, now a respected elder, taught young warriors, both Apache and Mexican survival techniques, in the desert. She looked toward where Ayana, despite her 90 years, still prepared medicines for anyone who needed them. "The life I left behind wasn't life," she said finally. "It was just existence. This is real life." That night, after the journalist left, Esperanza walked alone to a small cemetery on a hill overlooking the trading post. There was a grave there she visited every month, marked simply with "Itzel, never forgotten." "I kept my promise," she whispered to the stone. "Your death wasn't in vain. Look what grew from your sacrifice." The desert wind whispered among the saguaro cacti, carrying with it the sound of children laughing in multiple languages, the aroma of food shared between cultures, the noise of peaceful commerce where once there had been only war. The rich, obese woman, who had been delivered to an Apache so many years ago, had truly died in this desert. But what had been born in her place was something none of them had expected. Genuine hope for a future where differences didn't divide, but enriched. And in the mountains, where the spirits of ancestors watched eternally, there was peace. The end